Hey everyone, Ashley here. This is a video that I am making to give you some more information on things that you are about to receive to study with your children in the fall 2019 quarter. So I wanted to go with you some of the things that you're going to see coming home and then give you some ideas for how you can utilize those things at home. Again, you don't have to. How you study the Bible in your home is totally up to you, and there's so many things that you can do, but just because you are going to be getting a lot of stuff and people have had some questions, I decided to make this video so that you can watch it and go back to it anytime you need. And again, if this doesn't answer all your questions, you can come to anyone who's working on the Bible class team anytime. So the elders, Philip or myself, or any of the Bible class teachers, and you'll be finding out soon who those Bible class teachers are. So without further ado, let's get started. The past two quarters have been a little bit different. They haven't been your conventional idea of a Bible class, and that's because we've been doing the 3-cycle approach to learning the 17 time periods of the Bible. And by the way, the feedback that has come from teachers on how kids in Bible classes are doing with that is phenomenal. But come fall 2019, now that we're doing the deep dive, things are going to go pretty much back to normal as far as lesson books that come home and how class is structured. But there are a couple differences, so I'm going to talk to you about those. First, I wanted to show you the lesson book that students will be getting at the end of September to prepare for Bible class beginning in October. So this is the curriculum we're using. It's called Shaping Hearts for God. Some of our students at Bible class have already been using this in quarters past. Some of you may not be familiar with this, but it's a great study written by some Christians over in I think like Kentucky or Tennessee. But the very first book in the series is called All Things Made New. Nursery class students, so those are the 2- and 3-year-olds, you're going to get something a little bit different. Instead of getting a big lesson book like this, you're going to get a set of cards about this big, and there's one for each of the 13 lessons. On the back of each card is an overview of the account that the Bible class teacher will be teaching in class, along with a verse that you can read or memorize with your child. And then on the front of the card is an illustration that can help explain the account or the people that they will be learning about in that lesson. And those you will be receiving at the end of this quarter, beginning of the next one, and those are for you to keep at home and use however you want with your kids. Those in the baby class, not receiving anything, but this is what lesson books will look like for preschool students all the way up through 5th grade. And they will all look the same, but they're all different levels, so don't be concerned about that. There hasn't been a mistake. They all look the same, but different levels. And I'm going to give you just a little peek inside. So there's not one on this page right now, but I am going to have a little handout here, which is similar to what the Hatters did, which was always very helpful, which gives you the lesson titles and then the dates that we will be learning those in the Bible classes. And then on the second page of this lesson book, if I can open it, is going to be a schedule of daily Bible reading that you can do with your child to prepare for the lesson that they're learning in our Bible class throughout the week. I'll tell you, I've taught this curriculum before, and I've also had my kids learn this curriculum before. Sometimes I do the daily Bible reading. Sometimes I like to do our own Bible reading and study at home, which is different from this. And so then I will study this ahead of time without my kids, and then I pick out the verses that I want to read to them on Saturday to prepare for the lesson on Sunday. So you could do it either way, whatever works best for y'all. And then this is what the lessons look like. For preschool, it's pretty much just something to read and then some questions that parents can ask at the end, but there's nothing to fill out. As the levels progress, like for example the 4th and 5th graders, there will be questions that they need to answer in their lesson book. So that is what that looks like, but that is not the only thing that your children are going to be receiving for this fall 2019 quarter. They are also going to be receiving something that either looks like this or something that looks like this. This is what you will see if your child is in the nursery, that's the 2 and 3-year-olds, or the preschool class. If your child is in the kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd, 3rd grade, or 4th, 5th grade, they are going to receive a handout that looks like this. And so let me kind of explain what these are and how you can use them. You all will remember that you all got nifty-difty, handy-dandy, whatever the word is, binders at the start of this 17 time period, 3-cycle approach that we've been doing. And a lot of people had questions about how they could use it. And hopefully I was able to answer everyone, and the elders were able to answer everyone. But you had a bunch of handouts with an illustration for each time period, and that was just to help you in teaching your children the 17 time periods, and the illustration was to give you some talking points, but also make it easier for them to remember. The past 2 quarters, the way that I reviewed these with my kids is when we were about to cover that in Bible class, I went ahead and reviewed it with them previous to going to class, and then I let them color the page. And while they colored, sometimes we sang songs having to do with the time periods, but that's what my kids have done. So now my kids are Evelyn and Elizabeth. They are in the kindergarten, 1st grade class. And so when we start this quarter, they're going to come home with a stack of papers. I don't know how many there are. I think there are about 20. And they look like this. There is an illustration on the top. Then there's a title for what that lesson is covering, and then there are 2 sections that come underneath that. This first section says Summary of Bible Account, and down here it says, what can I learn from this Bible account? And so what you can do is put these in your child's binder in the time period that they belong in, and I will show you an example kind of what that looks like in a minute. There are 2 ways that you could utilize this in preparing for the Bible study that you are doing on Sunday and Wednesday in Bible class. The first is that after you do your lesson in this lesson book that you've been provided with your kids, you can then go over the lesson on this page, have them color the illustration if you want, and then have them give you a summary of the story that they just learned, and then talk about 3 things that they can take away in their personal lives from this Bible account, from these characters that they've learned about. The second thing that you can do is when you have a Saturday that you are about to prepare for the lesson come Sunday, as a review of what the children learned last week, pick up one of these cards, show them the illustration, see if that jogs their memory from what they learned in Bible class the previous week, ask them to summarize it for you, and then write down 3 things they learned from that lesson, and then go ahead and learn the lesson to prepare for the Sunday that is coming. If your child is not able yet to write quickly or write at all, something that you could do, that I'm going to be doing with my kids, I think for shorter Bible accounts, such as something simple like this, Before the World Began, I'm probably going to have my kids summarize very simplistically the story and what they can learn. I'll write that down on a piece of paper and then have them copy it here. But for stories that might be a little more wordy, such as Noah and the Ark, there's a lot they could say to summarize this story. I think I will just have them verbally give me details about what happened, and I will write it down. And what you are going to do is once your children complete these pages, they are going to put them in their 17 time period binder in the time period that they belong in, that they correspond to. This can then be used as a study or review tool in the future in your at-home Bible studies or your child's personal Bible study as they grow. There's just a lot that you can do with it. I also wanted to make mention of the fact that those in the kindergarten class all the way up have one of these maps in the back of their 17 time period binders, and this is a map that you can use as you're studying with them, show them where these events occur. And the really nice thing about these All Things Made New books is that in the very back there is also a map of the basic Bible lands, and so the lesson book will often refer to places places that you can easily find on this map. And having your kids visualizing where these things actually took place is very helpful for them in learning these Bible accounts. I wanted to give you a picture of what everything's going to look like in your child's binder when we are done with the deep dive and this is all completed. And the reason that I'm able to do this is because a year ago, before we started doing any of this, Philip and I decided that we were going to try doing the 17 time periods, the 3-cycle approach to learning the 17 time periods with our kids. They were 4 at the time, and so we thought this will be a good kind of test run to see, are kids this young able to learn this stuff? Are they able to retain this stuff? And the great news is, yes, they are. And so we've been really happy with the results we've seen with our kids. It has increased their Bible knowledge. Of course, now we're doing it again, and we're so happy to be doing it again because they are young, and the more they're learning these things and hearing these Bible stories and these Bible names, the more it's going to stick as they get older. So this right here is Evelyn's at-home Bible class binder, and our visuals that we used for our 17 time periods look a little bit different because the ones that y'all have now in your binders didn't exist at the time. That's something brand new off the market, I guess you could say. So these look a little bit different. Your Before the Flood, for example, looks like this, and Evelyn's looks a little bit different. But what we did is, after our children learned the 17 time periods, we then went from the very beginning of the Bible and went through and we learned each of the different big basic Bible accounts, characters and events. And so the kids learned about the 6 days of creation. We read from the Bible, and then they got a visual to color. They put it in their binder in the Before the Flood period. Then they learned about Cain and Abel. They learned about the flood, and the major event that occurred in that time period was Noah and the ark. Next time period is scattering of the people. The main event that occurred in that time period was the Tower of Babel. And then as we get to the next time period, there are a lot more accounts and people that the kids learned about. So they learned about God's covenant with Abraham. They learned about Lot and his wife and the Sodom and Gomorrah story. Abram and Hagar. They learned about Abraham almost sacrificing Isaac. I could go on. There are visuals within every time period. So basically, as the kids learned something that we read from the Bible, and I had a visual for it, I had them color it and stick it in the time period it belongs in. Something that I really like to do is take their binder and take all the pages out and mix everything up and tell them, okay, like, put this in order now, and they do pretty well. Of course, there's that period of the Bible that's fuzzy, honestly, for adults. I have trouble with it, and that would be divided kingdom, and everything basically from there until years of silence. So that's definitely something that I have to review personally for myself. So your kids are probably going to have more issues in that time period. But again, the goal of doing this study is that the more that the kids get to hear these and really know their Bible, the more everything's going to make sense, and the more they're going to be able to see the story of Jesus is throughout the Bible. It starts in Genesis and it goes all the way through. And that was our elders' goal in doing that, is just being able to see more Jesus and know our Bible better, and therefore be able to know Jesus better. So again, the handouts that your kids are going to be getting and the lesson books are for to stay at home, for you to use however you want. I don't think I went over this, just briefly. 2- and 3-year-olds in preschool, there is no place to write a summary or things that you've learned, so they just get an illustration to cover, and if you'd like, you can write down a summary of what happened in that lesson that you learned, that specific account, with your kids if you would like, and then put it in the binder, same way that we do with these. And there are not many people in the baby class, but again, we don't have a binder or a lesson book or any of these for the baby class. That would be the class that anyone younger than 2 is in. If you have any questions, again, please come to anyone who is teaching Bible class or working on the Bible class team anytime and Look for these coming your way soon. Thank you so much.